Here is exactly how to start a retinoid in your 20s. And if you were a late bloomer, if you didn't use retinoids as a teenager for acne, you are not alone. A lot of people either didn't get the chance or did and it didn't work out. Hi, me being a flake monster. Retinoids were not good to my face because I didn't have these tips and understand how to sandwich a retinoid, how to go through retinization, and even what sort of retinoid to choose. So let's start there. Which retinoid should we choose? Well, this depends on your goal. Retinoids can be used for many things, from acne to acne scars to fine lines and wrinkles to hyperpigmentation and even rosacea. What is your goal when starting a retinoid? That is going to be the most important thing to identify along with your budget. Are you someone who has medical insurance and you want to get a prescription and you're ready to go in with the big stuff? Or are you looking for something that's a bit more over the counter, inexpensive, and that you can pick up at Ulta? Or are you someone who likes to keep your skincare fancy and you want a more elevated retinoid such as the Retinol 3? Even identifying what textures you like in your skincare is going to be good, because if you want something like a cream versus an oil, there are different options out there for you. And remember that the most important thing with skincare is that you have to use it regularly in order for it to work. And so finding a formula or a brand or even a smell that you like is really important to make sure that you're going to keep putting it on your face. You know how horrible it is to use a nasty sunscreen that's greasy and burns your eyes or makes your hair feel like an oily, greasy, goopy mess? If you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to stick with it or enjoy the results. So that is why we want to identify something that is within our goals, that fits within our budget, and that we enjoy using. And you also want to take before and after photos so that when you actually start to see progress, you can look back for those photos for tangible evidence. So you've picked out or picked up your retinoid. You've taken pictures. It's time to get on a schedule. When it comes to retinoids and this retinization period, it's basically a period of time that your skin kind of feels red and flaky and irritated before it really gets used to your retinoid. And this tends to happen more with prescription strength retinoids versus over-the-counter stuff, and that's why picking out the right one for you is important. But either way, you want to get these on a schedule. And when it comes to retinoids, you usually want to start 1 to 3 times a week. So literally take out your calendar, your planner, whatever it is you use, and mark down your retinoid days. Is it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Is it a Tuesday, Saturday? Whatever that is for you, make sure that you write down that cadence so you can actually start incorporating these into your routine. And when you do, make sure that you also have a really good sunscreen on hand for daytime use, because all retinoids need to be protected from the sun, and SPF is your BFF. Now, when it comes to actually applying your retinoids, make sure that you're following either doctor's directions or the manufacturer's directions. And if you're using a prescription, this usually means a pea-size amount all over the face. If you are using something like an oil, you could use about half a dropper to start and spread that over the face evenly. But one of the most important things is identifying whether or not you want to sandwich. The idea of sandwiching a retinoid is kind of like making a sandwich with your skincare. Starting out with a moisturizer, retinoid, then another layer of moisturizer. Or you could just do layer of moisturizer and then retinoid. If you do the retinoid directly on the skin, it's going to be a lot more irritating. It's going to penetrate more, but it's probably not for the faint of heart. And usually if you're just starting a retinoid, you do want to go with some sort of a moisturizer or a barrier first and then put that retinoid on top. And remember, a pea-size amount, dab it all over the face. So a little bit on the cheeks, the nose, forehead, chin, etc. And especially if you're trying to target certain things such as smile lines, under eye wrinkles, or acne scars or a blemish, make sure that you tap a little bit on that area. It doesn't matter which finger you use. The ring finger is generally the most gentle, but just kind of smear and tap that on, making sure not to get it inside of your eyes or your mouth or any of the orifices in your face. Just be gentle and know that retinoids do travel, but smoothing these on in a thin layer really nicely is a great way to start. Now, if you are going to sandwich a retinoid, specifically a prescription retinoid, I feel like we should do a totally different video on this, but I do have a couple of favorites that I can recommend. If you have acne prone or oily skin, this is one from Bubble. It's the Level Up Balancing Moisturizer. This is a nice lightweight gel texture, and this works really, really well for oily skin. If you are someone who's super sensitive to skincare and you're using a retinoid, but you're prone to having a damaged skin barrier, oh my god, the Pacifica Vegan Ceramide one is one of my favorites. We actually have a beautiful butterfly who her son has eczema, and this helped her son. I was so happy when I heard that. And it's just such a nice, beautiful, fluffy formula, and it has ceramides and things that are nourishing to your skin and skin barrier. So this is a really great one if you are prone to irritation or if you're trying to take it gentle. And if you are someone who likes it thick, if you like it buttery, if you like it smooth, slugging with retinoids is actually a great idea. Yes, you can use vegan Vaseline or petrolatum jelly as a base, and if you put a retinoid on top, it'll still work on your skin, but it'll create a really good barrier, especially if you're dry or if you're prone to dryness. Now, you could also put this underneath something like a petrolatum jelly, but if you do that, it could be very, very irritating because this almost like locks it in. But a prescription retinoid and petrolatum jelly, these are like two of the oldest pairs in the book. Dermatologists have been recommending this for years, and it's because it's A, inexpensive, and B, it does work. For me, it can be a little bit greasy or overwhelming just because I have more oily tendencies, 20's. But if you're super dry, or if you are someone who retinoids just absolutely make your skin flake and peel, this is gonna be your best friend. And if you're someone who like hates moisturizers and you're like, I want to use something, but I don't like moisturizers on my skin, don't forget that there are some products that act as liquid moisturizers. You could use a hydrating serum or something like this. This is a ceramide infused pH balancing calming toner. This is from Pure AM. I love this one. And this one feels like a liquid moisturizer, but it also feels like there's nothing on your skin. So if you're someone who absolutely hates moisturizers and you're struggling to find a retinoid that works for you because a moisturizer is just not a part of your routine, there you go. Now, once you're putting these on maybe 2 to 3 times a week, it is time to increase. We are titrating here. So we're going from a pea-size amount 2 to 3 times a week to starting to work it up to every other day. And you should probably do this after a couple of weeks or after the first month. That way you're not shocking your skin. You know, you're not getting a lot of unexpected peeling. Basically, in the words of Dr. Alexis Steffens, start low and go slow. And that also applies to how much of a percentage of the cream that you're getting. Now, if you're using something like Apostrophe or Dermatica, you can actually speak to that practitioner and basically create your own custom formula. Those are also really great if you have other issues like rosacea or hyperpigmentation, because they can actually put other ingredients in that help with that. If it's a regular retinoid, you can request from your doctor or derm to give you a specific percentage. And if it's something like The Ordinary, they have like a 0.5% retinoid, a 1%, a 2%, etc. And you don't necessarily have to graduate up. It's not a bad idea though, especially if you're someone who is more prone to irritation. But really it's making sure that you go from a few times a week to every other day to starting to do it every day. And usually just once a day is fine. Retinoids do degrade in sunlight. There are some that are more photostable, but usually you want to use them at night. And that's also why using them with a moisturizer or sandwiching technique like these really works out well, because if you look like a greasy turkey, no one's gonna see you walking into the grocery store, you know, picking up sliced fruit and peanuts. There's a common saying that goes, where you start is where you will stay, and that applies to retinoids and sunscreens. So make sure that you are finding a sunscreen that works for you, that goes along with your retinoids. And if you're interested in different sunscreens, I've actually tested a bunch of them based on white cast, which you can see right here. And then I also tested just about every K-beauty sunscreen that I could get my hands on, and you can watch that video right here. Always remember to be beautiful both inside and out, reapply that SPF, and I cannot wait to see you in one of these 2 videos or in your sandwich selfies if you want to send me those on Instagram. Love you guys. Bye.